Now, it is my pleasure to introduce Marion E. Bowers as our mayor.
Thank you.
Yes.
Good to see you. Good to see you.
Thank you.
Well, hello, everybody. It's good to see you and welcome to the beautiful Woodley Park neighborhood here in Ward 3. I want to thank Miss Burnett. Give her a big round of applause for helping our littlest people get to school safely. I also want to acknowledge our council member for Ward 3, Council Member Mary Che. Mary, thank you for being here, and give her a big round of applause as well. So I'm joined today by DDOT officials, DDOT staff and personnel and neighbors, and we are kicking off Back to Basics Week here in Ward 3. And we're starting the week with a few road safety projects we announced a couple of weeks ago. I want to also thank Commissioner Fink, who has been very focused, of course, on his ANC duties for Woodley Park, the schools, the streets, the playgrounds. So thank you, Commissioner Fink. But before we get to our Back to Basics DDOT issues, I first want to start with a comment about Metro Rail service disruptions. And we're also going to hear from our director in just a few minutes. Clearly, safety is paramount on all parts of our transportation network, including Metro Rail. I don't have to tell you how important Metro Rail is to our region, how people move around, and how people get safely to work in all aspects of their life. We, of course, prioritize safety, reliability, and the capacity of the system. I've led regional efforts to ensure that Metro has the funding it needs to make the necessary improvements. And that is largely because we recognize we can't be a growing and competitive region that's committed to our sustainability goals without a transit system that is second to none. Our workers depend on it. Our students and families depend on it, and when visitors come to their nation's capital, they depend on it as well. And we know how important Metro is also to this neighborhood with its own Metro stop. So we're incredibly grateful to Metro's employees, but we also need Metro leadership to clearly articulate the next steps and timeline to fully restore Metro service. In the meantime, my team is working to increase access to alternative modes of transportation, and one such initiative went into effect this morning. So starting today, all DC residents can register for a free 1-month membership to the beautiful, awesome Capital Bike Share. So you just need to go to capitalbikeshare.com, and once you register for that free membership, you can take free 45-minute rides on Capital Bike Share, and I think the director has an update on how many people have already taken advantage of that. So don't be the last one. capitalbikeshare.com. Go to capitalbikeshare.com. So now let me turn to back to basics. DC government employees are at the center of our success with Back to Basics. We have a lot of initiatives to point to when we're talking about Back to Basics, including Olipalooza, including how we fill potholes, including how we're getting all of our sidewalks and streets into a state of good repair by 2023. Are we up to 2023? That's very soon, and have the reporting to show for it. And at every stage of the pandemic, our folks have been front and center, making sure that while the world was upside down, there were still city services that you could depend on, including having your trash picked up every week or twice a week, depending on where you live, making sure we were working to fill the potholes, pick up leaves, and so much more. So let's give a big thank you to DC government workers who have been doing the job front and center in person for the last 20 months. And a lot of those staff are part of our Vision Zero Fall Safety Initiative. You will remember that when we were together in Ward 7 just a couple of weeks ago, we announced the acceleration of a number of projects that will make moving around the city safer for pedestrians and cyclists. That includes the installation of approved stop signs and speed humps, right turn hardening measures, and other aspects of transportation improvements that will slow drivers. And in just 2 weeks with that accelerated process, we've been able to install 91 speed humps at 30 different locations across the city. And by the end of the fall, that number will be well over 150 and at over 60 different intersections. So I want to thank all of those involved in getting that done and working to safely accelerate needed projects. The team has also fixed or installed 16 stop signs and continue to work on 20 plus additional reports of places that need our attention. We're here now at this intersection to install a new high visibility crosswalk. I know that you've seen examples of these crosswalks across the city and in what DDOT posts on all of its channels. And in addition to the infrastructure upgrade, DDOT is also adding an additional, you heard from Ms. Burnett, because you really can't replace the human touch to make sure intersections operate the way they are intended to operate. So we will be hiring 40 new safety technicians to support safer traffic flows through some very important and needed intersections. We are going to be hosting a job fair. Director Lott will make sure everyone knows about it. So that people who want to be as happy and fulfilled as Ms. Burnett show up at the job fair and have an opportunity to come work for us. So with that, I want to introduce Director Everett Lott, who will talk a little bit more about how these improvements work and everything that we can do from the government's point of view to make our roads safer. Everett, please join me. Oh, before Everett, do you mind? Council member, do you mind coming up before Everett? Okay, Everett, can you give me a minute? Let me introduce, and I wanted to do this so I could introduce you. And Mary Che, I think as you know, we were neighbors on the council, she representing Ward 3 and me, Ward 4. But we're actually neighbors because our offices were next to each other. And we were also very focused and concerned about how people moved around, making our transportation system more sustainable and certainly safer. So with that, Council Member Mary Che.
Thank you very much, Mayor, and good morning to everybody. I'm delighted to be here, and I want to thank the Mayor for this initiative. It couldn't come too soon. We all know that there have been many instances where children and parents and others, cyclists, have been hurt on our streets, and there's a lot that we need to do to make them safer. So this could not have come too soon. And I look forward to these initiatives. I do want to nest it in a larger matter, though. We cannot have what we need to have. We cannot achieve Vision Zero unless we also combine enforcement and education. And we definitely need enforcement. We can have wonderful crosswalks, but if the cars are not following the rules and stopping for pedestrians, that doesn't help very much. In addition, I'd like to say something about some of the things we are doing. I said education, enforcement, but on the infrastructure topic, which we're here primarily about today, there was an instance of, injuries at an intersection where it turns out, looking back, folks there had been asking for a traffic light for a very long time. We should not be in the posture of reacting when people are hurt. We have to be proactive, and that's what this initiative is about. We have to be proactive and make our streets safe now before someone is injured. And with respect to some of the things that we're doing, I'm so happy that we're hiring more technicians. I have had people in communities here in Ward 3 ask for folks to help them, getting the kids to school or crossing the street and that sort of thing. And it's a win-win in that we hire our own people to do this, so it's employment, but it's also safety. So I'm delighted that we're doing this. The sooner the better. Although, one caveat, forgive me, Mayor, one caveat, when we do these blitz things, we shouldn't cut corners. Some of the things that we may want to do are controversial, like speed bumps. Speed bumps sometimes put traffic from one street simply onto another street. So we need to be careful, and we need to do the full, we need to do the full safety evaluation before we put in some items. And we need to broaden the lens a little bit. We have so many signs that are obscured by trees. We have so many signs that are faded that they can't be read. When we have signs that are down, it takes too long to get them back up. There are so many things we can do, and I'm pleased to be helpful and part of the effort, and we're going to make all of this happen. So thank you very much. I'm delighted you're here. Oh, I get to introduce you. I get to introduce the director of DDOT, who's been extraordinarily sort of active in terms of making DDOT function effectively, not just, on the topics that we're taking up today, but in all aspects. DDOT plays a vital role in making sure that people can move safely around the city in all respects. So I'm delighted to introduce Director Everett Lott of DDOT. Director?
Thanks, Councilman. It's good to see you again.
Oh, and my silly joke is that the new variant of the COVID is transmitted by elbows. So,
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Mayor, for the introduction, and thank you, Councilmember Che. It's good seeing everybody this morning. I am grateful to be here today to reiterate the sentiments that you've heard and relay how road safety remains paramount for the entire DDOT team and for me. As the Mayor mentioned, DDOT has accelerated roadway and intersection improvements over the past 2 weeks, including the construction of speed humps, stop sign installation, and right turn hardening measures to help protect our most vulnerable roadway users, which are children, pedestrians, and bicyclists. In addition to taking on additional safety work, we also have taken proactive steps to streamline the implementation of these safety improvements. We are very, very excited about DDOT's virtual job fair for safety technicians, formerly known as our school crossing guards. And that's happening this Wednesday, October 27th, in partnership with the Pathways to Government Employment Program. And we're hoping to get people just like Ms. Phyllis Barnett to join us at the DDOT family. My team plans to do more than 100 interviews right on site, and we'll make about 40 contingent job offers on site. More details about the pre-registration link is on our website and on our social platforms, but we need those interested attending to attend the pre-register immediately, as that window ends at noon tomorrow. And you can go to our website at www.ddot@dc.gov. Our crossing guards, as you heard earlier, plays an extremely essential role to the lives of our children who walk or bike to school every day, along with their parents. And as parents, and as a parent myself, it brings me relief to see a crossing guard that helps children safely cross the street at key locations, just as they helped my son safely cross when he was younger. Our crossing guards are also, they remind drivers of the presence of pedestrians that are in our crosswalks. And so hiring more crossing guards is an added key element of safety that we're adding to our safety campaign. As we move forward with our Back to Basics Vision Zero Fall Safety Campaign, and thanks to Mayor Bowser and her support, DDOT will have successfully addressed safety concerns at 100 intersections in the city by the end of this fall season, just as we did with the 2021 Summer Safety Campaign. DDOT was able to publish a dashboard that's on our website that publicizes the access in order to track our progress throughout the year. So I want everyone to know that we share the same concern and we share the same frustration that members of the community have expressed about safety. I want everyone to know that we are laser focused on our work toward our Vision Zero goals. So we want all residents to feel safe walking. We want all residents to feel safe cycling. We want all residents to feel safe driving on our streets. That remains our top priority at DDOT. So again, I want to thank you, and we're open for questions, Mayor. Great.
Hello, test.
I will first start with the press, and
Okay.
if there are any community questions, I'll turn to them. Yes, sir.
Good morning. Is traffic light synchronization a part of the equation of the changes you're doing, especially when you're losing lanes? You can have traffic backed up across intersections and things like that. Is that part of all of this at all?
Well, we always look at traffic synchronization to make sure it makes sense, but we do not have a goal of allowing cars to pick up speed. So that is not our purpose, but it is to make more efficient the street network.
Yeah, I was thinking it's not really about speed, but it is about efficiency. I mean, you know. So.
Yes. So the answer to your question is that's an ongoing review.
I'm good.
Yes, Mayor. Anything, a couple of weeks ago, I guess we were talking about bike lanes here in Ward 3 Glover Park. That's been an issue. I'm just curious if there's anything that has changed. One of the criticisms that I've heard up here is that there seems to be a pressure to just put these lanes in, even though it's taking parking, but just to put these lanes in so that you can say you've got so many miles of bike lanes, when in many cases it is hurting neighborhoods. What's your response to that?
Well, let me ask Everett to talk about any initiatives that are in front of the community right now as it relates to bike lanes.
Great. Thank you for that question. We actively engage with the community on all the protected bike lanes or bike lanes in general. The conversation that we had a few weeks ago about ton law, we had a community meeting just last week, as a matter of fact, with the community. We're taking that input back. No final decisions have been made about that particular location, but we do make sure that we get community input, meet with the ANCs, and talk with the council as well. And that's what we'll continue to do as we're engaging to expand our bicycle network.
Is there, again, the concern was expressed that there is, I guess, because to meet Vision Zero goals, there is an effort to just have X number of miles of bike lanes, sort of regardless of the impact on the community. What's your response to that?
Yeah, our responsibility is to make sure that we're creating a network, but we're going to do it responsibly, and we're going to do it with community input. So we're not just putting bike lanes up to meet some goal. We are doing it in a responsible way to make sure we can connect the network for pedestrians and bicyclists alike.
And Mayor, I would like to ask.
Can I just respond
yes, ma'am.
a little bit more? We do have goals to create more bike lanes to make our city more walkable and bikeable all across the city, and we'll make sure that we point you to where those overall city goals are implemented. They're for transportation, they're for the environment, and we don't see it as great neighborhoods can't have bike lanes. I mean, that sounds like the question you were asking.
Well, I guess their concern is that if you're losing, and I don't know the exact number, 180 or something like this, parking spaces, is that a good goal in terms of a neighborhood? It could be, something less than that, or
I don't know what you're pointing to specifically, Sam, but there are, and that's why. The engagement around projects is so important that because we put down a lot of bike lanes, but most of the bike lanes that remain, there are some trade-offs. There are things that we gain, and there may be some things that we lose, and our job is to mitigate that change.
And then I would also be interested in just the idea of the city bikes and having people to be able to join up. Was that your idea, or lifts, or what's the, I'd just like you to talk about it a little more as to why this is a solution to the metro problem.
It's not a solution. There can be no solution to half of your rail cars being out of service, but there are things that all of us, and we certainly are thinking about from the city standpoint, that we can do to ease the burden and the inconvenience that people are experiencing. So if there's something that we can do with City Bike, we'll do. We're looking at making sure the DDOT team is trying to make sure that we have all of our assets on the road. I'll have some further conversations directly with Metro today to get a clearer understanding about how their inspections are proceeding and when they can get back to full service.
Mayor, thank you. I wanted to expand a little bit on Sam's question. What would be your message to people that would say they don't feel comfortable getting in the bikes? You mentioned this is not a solution, but what would be your message to people that are saying this doesn't really address the issues that we're facing right now, the extra minutes it takes for them to get to work and all that?
Well, I think I've already responded to that question. Many people will use Lyft, and the people who want to use the bike should use the bikes, and then they will have a little bit extra, a few extra dollars in their pocket to boot. And some people haven't tried the bikes, and maybe they'll try the bikes because they're free. Any other questions? Any community questions?
Can you introduce yourself? Hi, Gigi Barnett, WTOP News.
Hi.
Good morning, Madam
Good morning.
Mayor. So how much of this, just piggybacking off of what they said, how much of this is an attempt to get people to maybe walk or use the bike or try another method than, as you mentioned, all the rail cars or half of the rail cars are out, try another method than getting inside their cars?
Well, I think you've answered your question, Gigi. It is true that, listen, there's no easy way to talk about half of your rail cars in a system the size of the districts being down. Clearly, that's going to have an impact on the experience that people have on Metro. The best thing to do is for Metro to safely get those cars on the road. And so we know that they're working tirelessly to do that. But in the meantime, even if there's small things that we can do to mitigate frustration, we're gonna try to do that.
But I guess people don't want to. I guess is what I'm saying is that folks don't want to try something different. So how do you get them to?
Well, we had how many people signed up this morning?
Thanks, Mayor. We opened up registration this morning at 6 a.m. and we have over 950 people that have registered for the free membership for Capital Bike Share. So we're really excited about the response, and we were thinking we're going to be well over 1,000 here real soon.
So my friends in the press, please be careful. Don't say nobody wants to do something and 900 people did it since 6 a.m. Please be careful. Instead, let's talk about people trying the alternative. Okay, any community questions? Yes, sir.
There is a certain contradiction in your announcement a couple of weeks ago that you want to expedite and streamline the process in the benefit of safety, which nobody's going to argue with, but at the expense of community engagement. And we are really concerned about the protected bike lane where it appears to be safe from its terminology. It's protected. But in fact, it is causing a hazard for pedestrians. And that cannot be overlooked. The seniors with walkers, the toddlers tied together with a rope on their way to daycare, the handicapped people themselves, and you and I. There is a limit, and there are some circumstances which would argue against the protected bike lane. They take up space that no one else can use. We know that some of the commercial interests are suffering. They can't get their patrons a parking space, and they can't get the deliveries that they need. So this has to be taken with consideration, and we're worried about the contradiction that you pose.
And thank you for stating that. And I think that the council member made a comment that made me think of that as well. And I wouldn't call it a contradiction, but I would call it a necessary decision. And it is also not a one-size-fits-all process. You will recognize that there are more simple things that DDOT can do that doesn't require a big community analysis. The professional engineers can look at the movements at an intersection and determine whether it needs a stop sign, a stoplight, whether it would recommend having one of our safety technicians. That's what we're talking about. And right now, the director will correct me if I'm wrong. The very complicated traffic study or intervention and the very simple one are kind of all in one big bucket. So we have to. Yeah, but let me just finish this point, and I'll go back to you. We have to be able to do the things that we can do fast, without, months and months and months of meetings. We have to do those things, and that's what we're committed to. But we also recognize that there are things that are more complicated, that involve more trade-offs, to the earlier question, and may require more professional analysis even before we can even get to the point of making a presentation to the community. So recognize that there isn't a one-size-fits-all approach to that community engagement piece. Your question.
There is a certain amount of pressure when the bicycle industry is giving a gift to the city. I tell you, we're concerned on our street that everybody that we ask to, everybody that we're in touch with, are bicycle specialists, and they're responsible for putting in protected bike lanes. And where there is a complicated issue, as you mentioned, we don't see traffic specialists getting involved. We don't see the pedestrian safety people getting involved. We see people who are promoting bicycles, and there's a limit to that, and there are hazards involved in it. So that's the point I want to make.
Okay, I got it. And so I'll make sure I confirm with DDOT where we are. Just be specific about the project you're referring to.
17th Street Northwest.
17th Street Northwest. Okay, I got it. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Come on over here, sir.
Speaking of bike lanes and community engagement, here in Ward 3, right behind us, Connecticut Avenue has been under study for bike lanes for quite a while now. There were 4 ANCs that reviewed this matter. 22 yes votes out of 24 commissioners voted to support bike lanes on Connecticut Avenue. We were promised an announcement for this summer, and now we're deep into fall. So can you give us an update on where we are on Connecticut Avenue bike lanes?
Okay, let me ask the director to provide an update.
Thank you very much. So the team did do the assessment. They have done the analysis, and we have some recommendations that I'm going to sit down with the mayor in the next few weeks to discuss those recommendations, and then we'll be able to make the announcement going forward. So we have done all the analysis, and now I just need to sit down and discuss those with the mayor.
Any other questions from the community? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm an avid user of the Capital Bike Share. I'm a Washingtonian who does not have a driver's license. But in the past few months, it's been really hard to find a Capital bike. I live at the top of Adams Morgan. I imagine everyone wants to go down the hill and not bike up the hill. And I know there were some reports about like how the flow of, I guess, in this new times is different. My question is, with like people now using this new membership, or as I guess in this new normal, are there attempts with working with Capital Bike Share to restock the bikes? Because having a membership means nothing if you can't get one.
Thank you for that question, and it's something that we've heard quite a bit, and you actually answered the question. So in a lot of neighborhoods in the upper part of town, most of their commutes are going downtown, so it's easier to go and travel down the hill, and they choose not to necessarily take Capital Bike Share to go back up the hill. So we are constantly working with Lyft to do the rebalancing to make sure that we're able to restock these bike corrals with bikes. We also have, based on Mayor Bowser and her leadership, been able to secure resources for additional bikes. So we have about 2,500 new e-bikes and also about 800 new stations corrals will be putting in over the next coming years. So we're really excited about that. Something we have heard, we really are trying to do that rebalancing with Lyft. But it has been the fact that we had an influx of folks driving or riding their bike into town, but not necessarily want to ride back uphill.
Makes sense.
Sure.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
Excuse me. Excuse me. Yes, I'm coming.
We now return to our previously scheduled program, already in progress.